TA, and welcome back to another Skype Sanctuary. I'm joined by the other big film buff on FTCR, Mr. Games Enlisted.
Yush.
And we are here to, I wouldn't necessarily call it a review, but we are here to talk about the recently revealed and uploaded the Cloverfield Paradox. I guess this is somewhat of a sequel to the commentary we did. I know that since we did that, I think you and I have spoken a few times about the movie This Used to Be. I believe it was called The God Particle.
Yep.
Um, we've been talking about, wanting to see it because the premise sounded great. And then JJ, I'm sure if it's one of these Cloverfield movies, you gotta somewhat praise the marketing slash reveal. Because I'm sure everyone's seen the memes of for the original Cloverfield. All the trailers and everything where all the marketing was in secrecy. You never really knew what it was about. You would hear rumors that it's a giant monster movie, but until the movie came out proper, no one really knew. All of the trailers and everything were extremely cryptic. J.J. Abrams would do a similar type of marketing for his movie Super 8, but wasn't nearly as effective. And then you had 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was essentially filmed in secret. No one knew anything about it. And then it revealed of like, this is being released in theaters in 4 months. Here's the trailer. And then you get the Cloverfield Paradox, where there's a trailer where it says, this is going online in 4 hours. Fuck you. which was, I'll give him, when I first heard about that, I was like, holy shit, that sounds great. Although, when you hear some of the behind the scenes, there's a less altruistic reason why that might have happened, but I think we'll get into that after we talk about the film itself. So, Stefan, right off the bat, what are your thoughts on Cloverfield Paradox?
The Cloverfield Paradox, it's an interesting film to say the least.
You know what? I'm sorry to cut you. You know what I just realized? The term Cloverfield Paradox could also just refer to this franchise in general.
I was literally about to say something like that, but I'll get into that a bit later because I got something like quote unquote both a theory and just kind of a like revelation about the movie that has to do with that, but I'll get into it later. But essentially what I think is, well, overall I'd say it is the weakest of the three Cloverfield movies because I think the first Cloverfield I really like. I like what it's doing. I think it has like it's an original idea and they do that idea fairly well. And then 10 Cloverfield Lane I think is just like a fantastic film. Like rewatching again, I'm like, oh man, this movie's so good. Even despite the ending, I've come around and being like, okay, it's not that bad.
I've always 10 Cloverfield Lane to me, it's like a perfect film except for the last 10 minutes. I've only watched Cloverfield Paradox once. I would probably rank it in the middle, just because, again, I appreciate the original Cloverfield more than I like it. There's a lot of cheap things in the first one, which for more info on that, go listen to our commentary. Plug. But I didn't hate this movie. Like I thought it was pretty decent aside from a few things, but this got like critically destroyed.
And I can kind of understand why, because I feel like the film itself, like the actor, like all the actors, I think are really good. Like they may have like fairly weak or even non-existent characters, but I could tell like the actors are really trying, and this is a great cast. Like you got David Oyelowo, Daniel Bruhl, Z Zhang. Gugu Mbatha-Raw, a lot of names you can't pronounce, and then Skylar and Johnny.
Yeah, the first thing that popped out to me, which I think this happened in another movie, but for the life of me I can't remember what it's called. But in the credits you just see Starred, and then this John Ortiz pops up. I'm like, holy shit! Some Call Me Johnny's in this movie.
I think it might have been Kong Skull Island because that's
what it was. Yes, it was Kong Skull Island, and then of course I forget the guy's name, but
Chris O'Dowd.
Chris O'Dowd, who looks exactly like Skylar, which I first realized that when I first saw Thor 2. I saw that with quick aside. I saw that with Mikono's fan, and we're watching it in the cinema, and he's watching it. And Christian is going like, this guy looks familiar, but who is he? And I just lean over and just go, it's Skylar. And he goes, holy fucking shit.
Yeah, it's like the cast is really good, especially the lead, Gugu Mbathu-Rod. Like she's like great in this. Like she
Mm.
is the one that's kind of like holding this movie on its back. I also think I'm a big fan of other dimensional story, like cross-dimensional stories of characters traveling to another universe and dealing with the effects of going into that like parallel dimensions and stuff like that. So I kind of like the idea of like I'm always a fan of that. So seeing that played out in this, I think it's really cool idea. I think it's really cool. The effects I think are really good. Like the ship, the inside of the ship looks pretty decent, and the outside of the ship I think looks really good. The
Production, yeah, the production design of the ship looks great. The ship, which is called the Cloverfield.
the music by Bear McCreary is excellent,
Hmm.
and there are there are like a little things here and there. Like there are a lot of like really like interesting moments. Like all the quote the kills essentially. Like they have a lot of like really cool and inventive kills. But what I will say is the film's biggest problem is that the story is kind of all over the place, and that does have to do with two reasons. It's the fact that the story itself is just kind of a like I've seen a lot of reviews say it's kind of a B version of every single space movie you can think of, like Event Horizon and Life, and basically like a little bit of Interstellar. And you just got to have like it's a whole bunch of things combined. And while they do some interesting things, it's just kind of a yeah, we've kind of seen this before. And then also is the fact that it's trying to be a Cloverfield movie at the same time when it clearly wasn't originally, and even more so than 10 Cloverfield Lane, which on its own you can still, even with the references, you can still kind of watch it on its own and be like, okay, I can. It's still a standalone thing. This one kind of weaves all over the place. It's very obvious when you be like, oh, that was added in later, or that was added in because of this, and it's like I wouldn't say it's really distracting, but it's kind of like when you look back on it, it's like, yeah, although I don't know if taking those out would have made this movie any better or worse. It's just kind of that's why I say it's interesting. It's something worth pointing out and something worth thinking about.
I would actually say it's incredibly distracting, mainly because, and this is, I think this is the difference between you and me, Stefan, going into this, is because I saw the Super Bowl trailer and you did not.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl trailer directly ties this movie to the original. It's like, 10 years ago this happened, find out why. So I went into this movie expecting, oh, they're gonna explain, what happened with the monster and all this shit, and no, it doesn't. We should say right off the bat, in case it wasn't clear, this is gonna be completely spoilerific. Uh, Talk about Clover Products, which is streaming now on Netflix, so you can go watch that at your convenience. You know what's weird about how you said, you could take out all the. I honestly think if you did take out all of the little scenes, because it's pretty much just the main character's husband's subplot, which doesn't really go anywhere. It does have a nice moment at the very end, which is kind of it has to be an intentional like kind of reference to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Halloween 3 had a very similar kind of ending in that regard, but if you revealed all of that with the husband's subplot, I think it would make the movie stronger. Because in my mind, we'll just say this right off the bat again. Spoiler alerts. The Cloverfield monster, well, it most likely isn't the original, but that same design appears in this movie. Um, Technically twice. And so I spent the entire movie just thinking about how this is going to tie in, because as we said, anyone who knows about the backstory of Cloverfield, they say the reason why the monster wakes up is there's a shot at the end of the movie where it flashes back to footage of the two main characters on Coney Island. And again, I have never been able to see it. Never been able to see it. But like
But
you see,
you did see it in the commentary.
I did.
Yeah, I remember specifically. You were like, "Oh my god, there it is."
Oh, well, again, it took me like 10 years to see the fucking thing, but there was a small splash, which is supposed to be some kind of like space. Something crashes into the ocean, which apparently hits the monster and wakes it up. The kind see technically when the Super Bowl trailer says just figure out what happens. There is one terrible line of dialogue. There is one terrible moment in the movie, which technically would explain the crazy shit in the original Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane. When there's a guy on a TV screen, who I think it's the guy who plays Harvey Bullock
Yep, it's Donald
on
Logue.
Gotham.
Donald Logue.
Yeah, big fan of that actor. He basically says the mission that the spaceship Cloverfield is on, which we'll get into in a moment, is dangerous and could open up basically Pacific Rim, and open up dimensions which would let in monsters and demons into our world. And he says in both the present, past, and future, which you could use as a means to say that even though this film takes place in like 2028,
Yep.
the fact that it's happening retroactively awakens the monster in the original Cloverfield and the alien crap in 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I think, if that's truly that's truly meant to be the reason, that's a really shitty explanation.
Yeah, that is everything that
Incredibly underwhelming.
everything that I've looked up. It's like everything that I've looked into it, rewatching it, checking out all the hints, all those like videos of like, oh, here are all the like secret hints that you may have missed. And it's like, yeah, that's basically what the explanation is, that every Cloverfield movie takes place in a different universe, and by the Cloverfield ship activating the God particle, they essentially rip holes in the fabric of space and time, releasing the Cloverfield monster in the original Cloverfield, the aliens in 10 Cloverfield Lane, the gigantic Cloverfield monster in Paradox, and
Monsters, because they make reference to it as more than one.
oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then whatever is going to happen in Overlord, which is supposed to come out at the end of this year, which takes place in the 1940s.
But you know what? I mean, again, I liked Paradox like when I was watching it, but it's been, because I must have finished it on Monday, so 3 days ago, and I barely remember a thing from this movie. It hasn't stuck with me all that well, but Stefan, why don't you? Because I think you have a better memory of what happened. Why don't you explain the basic plot outline for
So the
Paradox?
plot is that it's 2026. I think it starts about 2026. The world is basically kind of fucked with like a bunch of wars and like nuclear shit going on, and there's a power crisis. There's like an energy crisis in the world. So a bunch of like a global set of scientists and astronauts go up into space on a spaceship called the Cloverfield, where they're planning to create a particle accelerator beam so that the planet can have an infinite amount of energy. They end up there. They're up there for about 2 years, where they're finally able to get to the work. But once they set it up, the whole ship goes kablooey, and then they look out and the Earth is gone. What's going on? They start looking around, where they find that suddenly there's a woman inside, like in the walls of the spaceship. So they take her out, and suddenly weird stuff starts happening. Like their worms suddenly end up inside of one of the astronauts there. Chris O'Dowd's hand gets cut off and starts moving around by itself. And then they realize that the particle accelerator transported them to a parallel dimension, and that Cloverfield ship basically fused with that dimension's Cloverfield ship. So the woman on the ship, you find out the woman who was in the wall on the ship was the person who took over Gugu Mbathu Raw's place, because in that dimension she didn't have a reason to go up there, because she still had her kids because of something that happened in her past. She had an accident that basically resulted in her 2 kids dying. So a big what do you call it? A big kind of subplot is her wanting to go down to the parallel Earth so she can see her kids again, and the whole thing of, oh, should she or should she not? But then basically because the Cloverfield is there when it's not supposed to, shit keeps happening to them, so the team keeps getting killed off one by one. Eventually they're able to get it to work, but the other The person from that dimension wants to keep the Cloverfield there so she can use it to power their Earth, because their Earth is basically fucked. They end up in a fight. Or they end up in like a really long fight scene or whatever. She ends up getting killed, and the remaining two people end up back on Earth. They use it to and they use it, the particle accelerator beam, to get themselves back to Earth. They travel back down to Earth because the life's what is it? The life supply, the air system is pretty much gone on the spaceship, so they're going down there, only to find out that because of using the particle accelerator beam, Cloverfield monsters have started rampaging around the Earth. And this is shown through a subplot which the film cuts back to occasionally, where her husband is taking care of this kid who is played by, shit you not, a girl named Clover Lee. I don't know if that's intentional, or I think it's Clover Knee, but it's like he's taking care of her. They go inside a bunker because reference, and they're like hiding out from the monsters, and it gets the ending where they're coming back, and the husband is screaming, "No, don't come back, don't come back, don't tell her to come back," and then giant monster.
Yeah, which I think I think the subplot is because without the oh my god, it's the Cloverfield monster's back thing in the last 5 seconds, that subplot is meaninless.
Yes, and yeah, nothing really happens.
Doesn't really add anything. Which there is a moment earlier before he meets the little girl where you basically see the Cloverfield monster in silhouette, and it was like, oh okay, and it's weird because it's the one you see in silhouette is about size approximate to the one from the original, because I remember I watched the movie in two chunks because it dropped at like 11 p.m. Sunday, and so I watched like an hour of it before I had to go to bed because I had to be up early for work. And at the point I got to like was the moment where there was just the one standard size Cloverfield monster, and I remember you and I talked Stefan, thinking that I think we had talked about, we thought Cloverfield Paradox would end up being some kind of like prequel. Maybe they travel back in time and like the ship crashing is what wakes up the original, which I thought would have been a neat twist. It would have it wouldn't fit 100% because there's nothing in the original Cloverfield that mentions energy crisis, and if there was such a problem, there's no reason or no way the main character will be about to fly to Japan to start a new job, because he doesn't exactly seem like a scientist who could help out with that kind of shit. So I mean, like, it wouldn't have fit perfectly, but I would have preferred that kind of twist versus what we got. I will say that all the stuff on I like a lot all of the stuff on the spaceship. I think the moment after they activate the God particle, which I wish it was what it was. Is it still called that in the movie?
They don't call it a God particle. They just call it the particle accelerator beam.
I wish it was called, because God particle is a much better name than Cloverfield Paradox is kind of a stupid name because it doesn't really.
The God particle is like an actual term. Like, I forget the exact like scientific definition, but God particle is like an actual term of like specific, and what happens in the movie isn't exactly a God particle. So I guess that's why they changed the title, because they ended up changing it enough that they're like, it isn't really a God particle.
Also, they had to shoehorn in Cloverfield in the title somewhere.
True.
Otherwise you gotta get that brand synergy, my friend. But I think the bit after they use it and they kind of jump to the alternate dimension, the scene where the woman's in the war, I think is the most effective scene in the movie, because you just get all this kind of like random like screaming from war. Everyone's like, what the fuck's going on? They contemplate whether they should remove part of the wall to see what's behind there, and then when you do, it reminded that you just see this woman kind of like with like fucking tubes and shit going through her body, because obviously when the ships merged, as Stefan said, she's stuck in. It reminded me a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child, when Freddy Krueger possesses a motorcycle and kind of merges it with one of his victims. It's kind of, it reminded me of that on some level. But I mean, I think as you said earlier, one of the reasons why this movie falls flat the most is just characters. Even though I liked a lot of the acting, there's really nothing on the page. It's just like there's crazy semi-racist slash prejudiced man who is first to go and no one cares he's dead because he's just a big prick. Oh,
Yep.
so we see him do this.
Was he? Was he the? He was the Russian because Daniel Bruhl's the German.
Yes,
Yeah.
bad guy from Civil War. So when he dies, it's like, well, who cares? He was a big prick. And then you have Skylar, who's just funny man. Um, there's the captain, who's just like the noble captain who wouldn't feel entirely out of place on a Star Trek show.
Mm.
There's the Asian woman who's smart, and that's pretty much only
And she has a
characteristic.
thing for like her and Daniel Bruhl have like a relationship. And
Kind of. I mean, it's very subtle. It's slightly hinted that they're feelings for each other, but like nothing's ever stated. But like, yeah, I mean, like they're again, all the acting is fine because with lesser actors, this movie would be a lot worse.
hmm
So
Yeah,
these all these actors, I mean, I can't really think of like someone who I would point out. Like, the only person who I might be like, is kind of prejudiced Russian. It plays it a bit too like it's almost like a cartoon character with him because he's so over the top. Like I fucking hate you because you're German. Like
well,
he's like the only possible weak link. But even then, I still thought he did a fairly decent job of it.
yeah, and there's like the whole thing of like, oh, somebody's a spy. It's like, oh, you're spying on them or whatever, and it's that doesn't end up going anywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of things where like ideas are kind of brought up, but then it's completely abandoned. Like that notion. I really wish they would have done more with the run an alternate world.
Yeah,
Because nothing really comes of it. I mean, like again, there leads to a small bit where it turns out. So when they're on, we'll just call it when they're on Earth A, where they start off. The Russian thinks that the German is a spy, and that's why because as Stefan said, they've been on the spaceship for 2 years for what was supposed to be a 6 month mission. And so because they've been going on for so long, the Russian is like, in the news they say that Germany's close to invading my country. I bet you're fucking us over here just to make that happen. And then he's like, no, I'm not, blah, 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 blah. And then when they kind of jump over to Earth B, that becomes true. Like, I guess in that universe, that character was doing that.
yeah, because
Um,
they say in that universe the ship did crash land. Like they found like the ship that like crash landed.
yeah.
So and yeah, but other than that, and then the revelation that the main girl like that she's still on Earth. Those are really the only two things that we kind of hear that are different. Like, and then there's also like the only other big thing is that she in the end she ends up sending like a video message to her other self, which that also I know that was like the second trailer that they released where it's just that video message that she sends
Oh,
at
yeah,
the end
yeah,
of the
yeah.
movie. Which it's like it's weird seeing. It's kind of interesting because like the trailer you see from the angle that's being shot at in the movie you see her shooting it, but you don't actually see what that ends up coming for.
It is weird that because I mean that watching that trailer you think what is that, but like in context of the movie that is the most important moment in the movie. But of course, seeing it without the context of what's come before, it kind of means nothing to the trailer. Which is I'll give them credit for that. It's a I think really if they had it of marketed it as holy shit you're gonna fucking find out what happened in the first Cloverfield monster movie motherfuckers, then I think I would be slightly more kind to it. Again, as Stefan said, I can kind of understand why some people are hating it because again it's got some script issues, but one thing I'll say which it's funny stuff because when we were watching it, I think both you and I just imagined that they took the script for God Particle and then just like shoved in like, okay, we'll put a fucking Cloverfield monster here, we'll tie it into the first movie in this scene type of thing. But there was
That's
a
literally what happened.
technically actually it's not what happened. Apparently, so there was one of my favorite Twitter accounts is Film Clickbait, but they'll just retweet like clickbait titles and be like, explain what the clickbait is. And there was one where the director of Doctor Strange, I forget his name off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, no, I remember. Yeah, I think Yeah, well, it's him, and then also the co-writer C. Robert Cargill also mentioned
Cargill.
it.
It's funny because the clickbait title says that director of Doctor Strange once considered working on Cloverfield Paradox, to which the director was like, "No, I fucking didn't. What this fucking I've never even heard of this movie. Get fucked." And then the writer Cargill was like, "Actually, we did years ago when it was known as God Particle." And then the director was like, "Holy shit, God Particle became a Cloverfield movie," and I think his exact quote was, "What fuckery is this?" And then Cargo actually tweeted that he read the original script, and he said people who think it was just at the last second shit was added to make it a Cloverfield movie are wrong. Apparently, it was rewritten from the ground up to add those things in. So like it wasn't just like they took one script and added it in like
What's
two scenes. Apparently it was. I mean yes. Ultimately things were added, but I think more work went into it rather because I think you and me were just literally like they just took one script and just added in two little scenes here and there. But apparently that the whole thing was reworked to keep the majority of God Particle, but just I guess make the Cloverfieldness make more sense. And in retrospect, I wish they hadn't, because again, I think this movie, I get why, for marketing reasons, why you want to slap Cloverfield on the title, but I think the movie as a whole, same with 10 Cloverfield Lane, I think the movies as a whole would be stronger if they weren't tied to this universe, which I think my biggest problem again with them using the Cloverfield monster was I was really after 10 Cloverfield Lane when you had told me that they had taken another movie about the God Particle and you had explained the basic premise of it. I like the idea of Cloverfield becoming what Halloween tried to become, basically just kind of a yearly anthology series. Because Halloween after in Halloween 3 it's an entirely different uh, story. The original Halloween movie is a movie within the context of Halloween 3, but then when Halloween 3 bombed, they're like, fuck it, let's just bring Michael Myers back. And I kind of feel that's what they did with this. They were kind of like, oh no, our plan isn't working, fuck it, bring the monster back. And I'm like, I kind of wish they didn't. I kind of wish they'd either. I really don't care for the pointless alien battle at the end of 10 Cloverfield Lane, but at least it's something new. While watching 10 Cloverfield Lane, I was entirely expecting when she gets out the bunker, the monster was going to be there. And part of me is, I think most of me is happy it was something new. I just wish what we got was better than that scene in the movie.
Well, like I think, the revelation of the aliens and what happens after the fight, where where she does like the whole fork in the road thing. I think that's like those are like really good scenes. It's just the whole throwing the Molotov cocktail up into the vagina ship and blowing up. Like, yeah, that's dumb.
So fucking dumb. I know you. I would have loved it if she gets out, sees his aliens. When it gets to her face, she's like, "Oh, great, cut the crest." I know. You like the she changes direction to go and help fights. If there was a way to get that without the stupid fight, I'd be fine with that. But like I would, my kind of Topher Grace fan edit of 10 Clover Lane would literally just be cut out the 10 minutes after she says, "Oh, great." And then that movie is literal perfection. That movie is fucking amazing.
Also, I need to kind of like go back on when you said that they did change it. Yesterday, at the time of this recording, J.J. Abrams and the director Julius O'Neill, they had this like Facebook Live Q&A.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And I found to read what they said. I found the quote where J.J. Abrams literally said, "While we were shooting, we were still making adjustments. This went through many different iterations as it went along. He added all the Earth scenes after they had already finished completing God Particle, and after test viewers insisted on knowing what happened on the planet during the story." So it really was. So it was. It. I assume it was something along the lines of, yeah, the original God Particle script was rewritten, but all the actual Cloverfield references were added in after the fact still. So like, because you never hear any of the actual characters call the ship the Cloverfield. It's only ever in voice and on that interview that the guy's talking about the Cloverfield paradox, and you get like those close-up shots of like the slusho the slusho thing,
Yeah.
the Kelvin what do you call it, the Kelvin, a gas station, the girl who's watching that other bad robot like reference show. It's like all these little references, and yeah, and everything on Earth. You can tell like those are all clearly added in after the fact.
Which is like those are the worst parts of the movie. So sometimes test audiences don't add much to your movie.
Although, even though it's been 10 years, seeing Clovey again, I shit my pants again. That thing never fails to scare me.
I won't lie, same. I was watching it in my basement, and like my son was asleep, but I was like, "That's fine, I'll watch this." And when he pops up, and because all he does is like, you just see, and this is probably what I think you and I were having a conversation about this. I thought he was added at the last minute because you don't even see the full monster. You just see like his head and his shoulders.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I think that's also effective because it's like, holy shit, that's a giant.
Because basically like it comes up through the clouds, which would probably make this Cloverfield monster the biggest movie monster ever.
Bigger than 2014 Godzilla.
Well, but yeah, well, if we're going by Godzilla's, then Shin Godzilla would be bigger than him. Although I guess the recent anime Godzilla is bigger than.
But that's an anime. They can get away with going uber giant.
Yeah, but like it's fucking crazy how big that thing is. But it's just all the Cloverfield stuff. I just feel it's I would have preferred it, and I get. They wouldn't have done this because America's for the same reason why in the original Cloverfield they added in the monster again at like the last second, which as we discussed, I hate that addition. I don't think it was needed. I would have preferred it if like once the ship goes through the clouds you just hear roaring and like we don't see the monster. I know you can't do that. I'm sure some people would say it was too much of a cock tease, but I would have actually preferred to not see it again.
I think it was fine. Like if you're going to tease something, like I feel like at the point, like I feel like we there's been so many movies where you're teasing, like when you tease too much, that it's kind of like you kind of like, I think like the way 10 Cloverfield Lane works, because you don't see what the actual aliens look like. You just see those small dogs and the ship. So I feel like that's kind of like that's kind of like a good enough tease, I feel. But if you just are hearing the Cloverfield roar and you see the silhouette and you never see it, you're kind of like, oh, come on. It's like if you're going to ram all these Cloverfield references into air, you might as well show it, like even if it's for a few seconds. And I'm like,
I get that, I do understand that point of view. My thing is that like that's not the story. Like the story is everything on the spaceship.
mm-hmm.
So I mean that's why I mean if the Cloverfield monsters were a more active part, because aside from, because again, if you cut out like a few lines of dialogue, and the bit with the silhouettes, if you remove something like 30 seconds from this movie, the monster is a big like what the fuck,
yeah,
like it's such a non-element to this movie that, and again, the fact that the marketing on some level was really tied into the original, and the fact that I find the revelation incredibly underwhelming. I would have liked this movie more if it was just completely removed in general. I mean, if you want to keep it in the Cloverfield universe, that's fine. I get it, because it would brand recognition would help you people watch it more. I would have preferred either like an entirely new monster or like a different threat, rather than just it's the Cloverfield monster again because fuck you. That's why.
I'm interested. I'm interested to see what the original God Particle like ending was, because I know the original ending of The Cellar, which is what 10 Cloverfield Lane became, was that she just goes outside and it's a nuclear, like there wasn't any aliens. It's just a nuclear like what's the word, like nuclear holocaust, just everything's destroyed and whatever. And so I'm just kind of like, I think in comparison, I think Aliens is a better ending than just it was a nuclear holocaust. And so I'm interested. I really want to know what that original ending of God Particle would have been, because like you say, there wouldn't be anything on wouldn't be anything on Earth. And so it'd be like, oh, would the movie end with just them going on Earth and nothing happening? Or like, because I feel like with a movie like that, which for like, I assume like the whole them getting killed by the ship would still be in the original movie. So I'm like, what would the ending have been if it's not like? Because I feel like if they just go to Earth and nothing happened, like there's no consequences. I feel like something would have happened.
I could see maybe something like a Planet of the Apes, like that they get down and there's like one shot of this, like something's different,
Yeah, they are on a different Earth. Yeah, that makes sense.
But like I could go back to 10 Cloverfield Lane. I knew it was 80 because there's like John Goodman, says like men from Mars twice, and after he like referenced aliens the second time, I was like, it's gonna be fucking aliens at the end of this movie. Like it's gonna be aliens because I could almost guarantee they went back and added those extra like it's aliens dialogue to kind of make the ending not completely come out of nowhere. But again, anything is better than just let's shoehorn in Clovey because I think it kind of makes him as an American monster. It makes him to me less special if you don't give him a actually, I forget. Is it a female monster?
Well, the original one was a baby. Like we don't know its gender, but yeah, the one in the first one is just a baby.
Yeah, they just woke up and it's scared. There's no idea what the fuck's going on.
It's interesting that because one of the big things about all three Cloverfield movies is their ARGs, which is the augmented reality games. Which though that's that big, like the original movie had that big like the online marketing that was like that essentially told, if you put it all together, it told this like big Cloverfield prequel essentially. And it's actually, if you look it up, it's really fascinating like as a story. So
because wasn't it a prequel manga as well, which had like a different Cloverfield monster attack in Tokyo or something?
It wasn't a prequel; it was just another story.
Oh, okay.
So, but what's interesting is that because people always say that, oh, it's that satellite that crashed into the thing, because in the movie that's what woke up Cloverfield, but the ARG specifically says like that has nothing to do with it. That actually crashes well after Cloverfield's been awakened. And it's what the story is that there's this company called Tagarato, and Tagarato discovers the Cloverfield monster underneath like the bottom of the ocean. So they create a oil an oil refinery above the monster so they can like observe it. And they end up taking parts of the monster. They end up taking basically the seeds of the monster, and that's what they use in their slusho. So the slusho is literally the seeds of Cloverfield.
So it's Cloverfield semen.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Like, because there's even stuff like, there's like hints where there's like a viral, there's like this video that's like an advertisement for Slusho, and like one of the people are saying like, oh, it makes my stomach explode with happiness. And what happens in that movie? The girl gets bit by one of the parasites, and she explodes. Basically what happens is that they poke at it too much, it awakens. There's actual like news footage of the thing going down, and you see the monster under the ocean like poking at it, and that happens like I think like a week or two before the events of the first movie. So essentially says that it's slowly making its way towards New York, and then that's when the first movie happens.
Okay.
And then you have 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is just presumably now, based on what we know in this movie, it's its own separate universe, where in that ARG, John Goodman's character, he worked for the satellite company at Tagarato.
Uncle Chuck?
What?
Uncle Chuck?
Yes, Uncle Chuck. And he basically because he works there, he finds like the aliens coming to Earth, so that's what makes him go crazy, make the bunker, and that's what drives his family away from him, which leads to him getting more crazy. So that's kind of like the film's explanation of like why he built that, how he knows about it, why he went nuts this way, and that's their like big like connection.
He's so fucking good. The fact that he wasn't nominated for an Oscar is like, fuck you, Academy Awards.
He won
You don't know shit.
he won a Saturn Award. Does that count?
Good. He deserved. He was so fucking good in that movie.
He has never been nominated for an Oscar. That's a shame.
It's a shame. He was Fred fucking Flintstone. You fucks. How dare you?
Speaking of him, what's really interesting, because I didn't even know the first time. This is like when I looked up all those videos to find out that Donald Logue's character is Mark Stambler, and John Goodman's character is Howard Stambler. So he's in this universe. He's the brother, and also the woman that he's talking to, and the news anchor he's talking to, is the woman in 10 Cloverfield Lane that's knocking on the door trying to get in. That's like has all the diseases.
Nice.
So it's like all these little connections that are like connecting, like Tagarato and all those, like the Kelvin and the Slusho and all. There are all these little connections that are kind of like telling you that these are all connected in some way, but not completely. And so the whole idea that these are all alternate universes and different things happening in each alternate universe, that I kind of think that's idea that is kind of an interesting idea, that this particle accelerator ripped open fabrics in space and time everywhere, which is why I'm like, so we got the 2008 with Cloverfield, 2016 with the aliens, 2028 with the big aliens in Paradox, Overlord in 1944. If they want to retroactively say that Super 8 is a Cloverfield movie, they really can. They can, because of the alien that takes place in like 1979. So now I'm like, can we get a 50s Cloverfield movie, a 60s, an 80s, a 90s? Like, I honestly want them to do that. Just go through every decade and just make a Cloverfield movie, and like just see what they can do. Like, get a different monster, get like a different, like, whether it is the Cloverfield monster or a different alien or whatever, just go and do that. And I'm like that sounds like a really interesting and fun idea.
Yeah, I mean, I just make the scripts more like 10 Cloverfield Lane, where there's actual character and motivation.
Overlord is the first one of these that was written and shot with the intention of being a Cloverfield movie. So,
obviously, aside from the first one.
Yeah. So even then, they didn't know what a Cloverfield movie was supposed to be.
Well, I think at that point, I mean, it's weird how this the Cloverfield as a franchise has taken on this concept, because originally, back in the day, a lot of people, they had said they had toyed with the idea of making a sequel that was just, and I think we talked about this in our commentary, that was just the events of the first movie but from someone else's perspective. I would still be open to that. I would be open to, like, maybe for the last Cloverfield movie, or one of the upcoming sequels, they once again do it's the monsters attack, and it's someone else's point of view, and maybe find out more information, type of thing. Although I guess now they so Paradox is the fact that it's opened up all this shit when the monsters came. Does that change all that backstory you said about the first movie, or is that just like...
No, I assume that still means that it opened up, like, it opened up the monster underneath the ocean, which led to Tagarato poking around with it, which led to it waking up and going. The difference is that it doesn't immediately in the original Cloverfield, it still technically works because the monster comes out from under the ocean. It just doesn't immediately go to attack. So it's like you can still kind of see, like with the aliens, it's like the aliens, they show up and then they make it over, and then I think the only one where it's really spontaneous is this movie, where it's just kind of like it happens and then immediately the aliens show up.
Yeah, because there's just like fucking explosions and crazy shit like that.
Suddenly giant monster attacking the city. And then I think, because I remember, there's the shot when they're going down and you see the Earth, and there's like the big like pile of like red and stuff. I think that was supposed to assume like, that's all the destruction. Because at first I was like, I thought it was only supposed to be one monster, but it's like, oh no, you mentioned that there were multiple monsters of different sizes. So I'm like, which now because I'm like they probably aren't going to do it, but I'm like I kind of wish we could see. I kind of wish we could kind of like I was gonna say like a monster like a Clover. I know, I got it. I know what the final Cloverfield movie should be. Cloverfields. Just a whole either that or Crisis on Cloverfield Earths. Just have a whole bunch of Cloverfields like fucking about either in space or on Earth or whatever, and just go mad. Just go create insanity.
We need Paramount to get a deal with Warner Brothers, so we can have a big crossover on Destroy All Cloverfields, where we get Godzilla and King Kong and Rodan and Mothra and King Ghidorah to join together to fight the giant fucking Cloverfield monster, which is half the size of the Earth.
That would be amazing.
I think in that fight, I think Godzilla would win because Cloverfield, from what we see, doesn't really have any like special attacks. It's just a giant monster. Like Godzilla's atomic breath would most likely destroy that thing in 6 seconds.
Well, it depends on how strong it actually is. Well, the baby we know got destroyed by like, well, it got destroyed by a bunch of bombs.
No, it didn't.
Well, maybe we don't.
We've been over this. The end of the credits it has that little like weird audio. If you replay it, it says it's still alive.
Yeah, true. Well, it says help us normally, and then if you do it backwards, it says it's still alive. So
it's a lion. It's a Voltron movie.
It's a lion. I saw it. It's a lion. It's huge.
I want them to make a Voltron movie, but it's set in the Cloverfield universe. Stefan. That's what the last movie has to be. Voltron comes together to defeat the giant fucking Cloverfield monster.
Let's say, well, that's DreamWorks, which is owned by Universal, and Universal also owns Pacific Rim. So there you go. That's your connection.
There you go.
So you gotta get Universal to work with Paramount. Universal, Paramount, and Warner Brothers. You put all your giant monsters together. Do something.
And Toho, just so we can get Shin Godzilla in with American Godzilla. There you go.
Technically that'd be Funimation, because Funimation is the English distribution right. So yeah, put them all together. Like, let me see, who doesn't have a giant? Does Disney have a giant monster?
Just their corporation in general.
But say anything in Fox. Yeah, because now they own Fox.
Hey, Disney has the Rancor, so we'll put the Rancor in as well.
I was about to say, does Fox have any giant?
The Alien Queen, but that's
like, not big. That's like
well, it's big. It's big compared to humans. But something like Godzilla would just step on that thing. I don't think Fox has any kind of giant monsters.
Sigourney Weaver could beat the shit out of the Alien Queen.
I want to see Sigourney Weaver in a power loader suit fighting Cloverfield monster.
In a Jaeger.
That's the sequel we need.
Yes. Make it happen. Who are we missing? Does Sony have any monsters?
Venom, who they seem to be afraid to show people, which isn't a good sign.
They didn't finish. Like, is Venom a Cloverfield movie? Is Life a Cloverfield prequel?
I love that the writers of Life were like, yeah, sure, it's a Venom prequel. That's fine. Sure, why not?
You'll see more of a green goop in watching that than you will in the teaser.
Gee, that Venom teaser was very underwhelming.
It was bad.
This is the first time I've ever heard you say anything was bad, Stefan. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, my friend.
I can say things are bad. I just don't like talking about the things that I don't like. That's why I'm talking about this, because I like it.
It wasn't. I can't say I'll ever feel the need to revisit it, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best movie I've ever seen, but I've seen far worse. I liked. They had a nice atmosphere. The production design was great. The acting was good. The script could have used a bit more work. The only thing I didn't like, which felt like manufactured tension in the third act, is when the woman from the alternate world goes to start killing people,
Yeah.
and I was just like, it's just like we don't need this.
Like
Like
I
no,
understand her motive, like the whole like, oh, she wants to keep the ship here because her Earth is dying because they never got it to work. But she because she's so cold and like unemotive like the whole movie, and then she suddenly goes like, yeah, I'll kill her. It's just kind of like, oh, we're doing this again. Okay.
yeah, but,
Like I'm glad at least like
yeah,
what I'm glad at least like if it was everyone died except for the main one, except for the main girl, then I would have been like but I like the fact that Daniel Bruhl survived, like Daniel Bruhl still survived, so it's like okay. So it's like that's something that's a change at least, because normally like they would kill everyone.
they would, but Black Panther decided he should live, so that's why he was allowed to stay alive in this one. I've learned you're not gonna die today.
Then which is funny because that woman is the villain in Guardians 2. The
What?
high priestess.
Oh, the Gold Woman. Oh, really?
Yeah, Elizabeth Debicki.
Damn, we got like Guardian people. We got the bad guy from Civil War. We got Scarlet from Thor 2. This is a freaking regular Marvel Cinematic Universe reunion.
Who else is in the movie?
We got, of course, well, John Ortiz, our friend Johnny. In the movie.
The David. I don't think. Yeah, David Oyelowo. He's not. I don't think he's in any MCU movie yet. He was the dickhead in. He was the in Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Although the score by Bear McCreary, he does the music for Agents of Shield, or at least in season 1. So there you go.
Right.
It all comes together.
Gugu Mbatha Raw. She's in a bunch of. She was in the live action Beauty and the Beast. I think she's in A Wrinkle in Time. She does. She's in a bunch of Disney stuff right now.
I'm quickly going through the actors on Wikipedia to see if anyone else was in a.
I
Marvel
thought
movie.
I thought that the husband was the guy from Get Out, and he's in Black Panther. So I thought that was going to be another one, but it's like no, it's a different guy.
It's a different guy. Damn it! Everyone's ruining our shit. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I would, if you have a passing interest in decent sci-fi movies, or if if you're really into the kind of linked multiverse that is the Cloverfield film series, give it a go. Again, I can't really say I don't agree or see where all the negative reviews are coming from. I just happen to enjoy it more, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of those reviews. But I mean, like I completely understand why people wouldn't like this movie. I think the biggest flaw is its script.
Yeah.
I think the more attention could have been made to the characters. But again, also, what I was saying about Netflix. So apparently, Paramount, owns the Cloverfield series. They released the first 2 movies, and some of the scuttlebutt I've been reading on various sites and Twitter feeds, which again may be all complete bollocks. But apparently, Paramount knew the movie wasn't very good, I guess, due to the test screenings that weren't very positive, which may be why, JJ and everyone added in all that monster shit at the last second to trying to appease fans. But apparently, Paramount did not want to spend the money to on the marketing and putting it on in cinemas and that type of thing. And so when Netflix stepped in and said we'll buy the distribution rights and just whack it online, Paramount was perfect, because then it saved them the trouble of having to do anything. And of course, because of the way Netflix's retention data works, no one really knows how many people watch Netflix or what's viewed more than others. Generally speaking, Netflix will just say, "Oh, this performed to expectations. It exceeded expectations," or occasionally with things like Luke Cage. The website will just stop working, which is then you can tell, oh, this was successful because it crashed Netflix. I did not experience that with Cloverfield Paradox myself, but based on how the movie is, I think I could see that being true. How Paramount was like, yeah, I'd rather not with this. Let's see if we can get it elsewhere. So I'm not sure if what's the new movie coming out, Stefan?
Well, the next movie coming out is it's set for October. They could easily push it back because God Particle was supposed to come out in
April.
October. Like, it was supposed to come out in October. Then it was pushed to February. Then it was pushed to April, and then it was like, oh no, it's coming out in February. So
Yeah.
they could easily push it like back, but as of right now, Overlord is set for October, and the plot synopsis is it's in 1944, the day before D-Day, and a bunch of soldiers end up upon a Nazi camp where they discover some supernatural stuff going on. The original synopsis of it said that it was Nazi zombies, but they've changed it to be supernatural. Like, they've removed the zombies in it, so maybe something changed. Maybe they're keeping a secret, but
Well, I think
something
that's
goes on before D-Day.
that's smart because nothing will ever beat Dead Snow, the greatest zombie Nazi movie ever made.
Right.
So what's the point? So yeah, they'll probably have some like voodoo shit or like I will probably see a Cloverfield monster at some point. But I wonder if that one will go to Netflix as well, or I wonder if Paramount will actually release that themselves.
Paramount has said that they are releasing it. Like, the Netflix thing with this was basically just like kind of like what you mentioned. J.J. Abrams was like, he was like, oh, what's the best way to market this? And he was like, why don't we put it on Netflix? Like, we just drop it on Netflix. And Paramount was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, it's like they're like, yeah, sure, because Netflix is going to give us like 50 million. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get money from that. Like,
But again, I doubt, dude. Paramount would not have agreed to that if they thought this movie would make money. So Paramount clearly had no faith in this movie, which is why they allowed that to happen.
But here's the thing: this isn't the first instance of Paramount dumping something on Netflix. Like, before this was announced, there's the whole controversy with Annihilation, which is coming out later. Like, I think, yeah, later this month, where it's God, I forget the director's name, but it's the one that Natalie Portman stars in. It's that high concepts, a science fiction film. Apparently, Paramount essentially, like, this film is going to be too smart for people, so they sold the international rights to Netflix. So it's not going to be coming out in theaters in other countries, but only in the States. So that's kind of very controversial to people, especially because the reviews just came out and it's like glowing reviews, like everyone's loving it. So it's
if you think a movie is going to be too smart, why would America be the one country you release it in cinemas for?
Probably because it's like if they dumped it onto Netflix, like, especially after putting so much money into that, they're like we need to try to get some money back. And
it's just crazy that you think the country that has a reputation for having to dumb down their movies for audiences is the one place where you release your, the movie that you see is too smart for audiences. Like, why the fuck would you not release that in Europe? Where they're known for like pretentious high concept movies.
Especially because Paramount, probably more than any other studio right now, I think they're doing the worst. Like, they've been having bomb after bomb, and it's like outside of like they've got Mission Impossible is like, I think they're really only guaranteed success right now.
I think that do they have Transformers?
They have Transformers, but the last Transformers didn't do so well.
And hope, let's hope Bumblebee does well. No.
Well, it's a good director, so probably I'm hopeful that Bumblebee's going to be good because it's the creator of Laika is doing it. I'd be shocked if it ended up turning bad because all of his stuff has been excellent. And then
Yeah, I mean, trust me. I want nothing more than Transformers movies that aren't laughably pathetic. But if Michael Bay and his team are still involved, that does not fool me with
they aren't other
concepts.
than a contractually obligated executive producer role. So we'll just have to see. Just Paramount, like that's why it's the whole like, oh, Paramount has Cloverfield. Like, I still think Cloverfield Paradox on name alone would have made back. Like I think it would have made at least the $50 million. But I guess they just didn't want to take the risk because
What
Paramount's
did
like we
what did 10 Cloverfield Lane make?
it made I'm gonna
Oh yeah,
check.
okay. Also, so 10 Cloverfield Lane made $110, but off a 15 million budget. I think if the budget was if the budget was like 20 million, Paramount probably would have released it.
Yeah, but
But
I
I don't know,
think
man, because I think I mean, 10 Cloverfield Lane got amazing reviews. This
yeah.
did not, and yes, I mean it does have the name Cloverfield, but I don't think that name really. I don't think it carries as much weight as Paramount may think it does. I mean, it is a name people know, but it's it's outside the two movies, one from like 10 years ago, which which I think most people kind of enjoyed, but it was at the end of the day it was just a giant monster movie, and then you had 10 Cloverfield Lane, which it made 110 million, which is a lot of money, but not that not like in the grand scheme of things, not that many people saw. So I'm just like, I don't know if the Cloverfield brand is as strong as they think it is.
But also, I think that's still more money than they would have gotten if they called it The Cellar. To be honest,
Oh yeah, totally,
yeah,
totally. And which I have to point out my own hypocrisy. The reason I saw it was the name Cloverfield, so I guess I am talking
yeah.
complete
We
shit.
all
But I
we
think
all did. Yeah.
yeah. But I just don't think in the grand scheme of things, the Cloverfield brand is that strong. Especially after like this game, which ultimately I liked Paradox, but if this was the last Cloverfield movie, I would not feel bad.
I would kind of feel because I'm like how they ended it. I'm like if you're gonna I feel like how I feel like I'm just kind of like ending it like that. It's just kind of especially because this movie is like at least to me the weakest. I'm like come on, like at least give us one more. Like at least like see if you can do it one more time. Like give us like. See, like, let's see whatever let's see whatever Clover Lord ends up being, and if that ends up being good, then it's like yeah, keep on going. But if that ends up not doing if that ends up being on par with Paradox, then I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe put it on pause for a little bit.
Or just go back to finding better spec scripts,
True,
like he did with I guess 10 Cloverfield and God Particle were both like kind of spec scripts. So
but Overlord wasn't. Overlord was written to be a Cloverfield movie, so
yeah, I would probably if that one tanks, Paramount may be like fuck this franchise.
especially because like they're out. They're well, I don't think they'll say fuck this franchise because they're kind of low on franchise at the moment. Like they've got Star Trek. Like Star Trek's kind of in a weird place right now because J.J. Abrams over doing Star Wars. They've got the Cloverfield stuff.
I mean, like Abrams not being there doesn't mean anything because he wasn't really a part of three. I think it's just because Beyond did not perform what they expected it to, which is why they didn't go straight into making number four.
Well, it's also because Bad Robot still produces. Even though he doesn't direct, Bad Robot still produces. So it's still like there's still Bad Robot's hand in there. So you got
That's still the stupidest name for a production company. like rewatching The Force Awakens, the fact that you fucking see the Bad Robot logo, I'm like, oh no.
I love that. I love that robot. I love that robot.
It's such a fucking dumb name for a production company. I love it. It's so bad.
I mean, I've seen worse. I've seen worse I've seen worse like director production companies. They're just kind of like, I don't know what you're supposed to say. And you got Mission Impossible, Transformers. I was gonna say their animated stuff, but no, not really. Their animated stuff isn't doing so well.
Yeah, who's Fast and the Furious? Is that Paramount or is that Universal?
That's Universal.
Oh, Universal fucking rolling in the money with that franchise.
Yeah, Universal really. Well, they've got Fast and Furious. They've got everything Illumination's doing. They got Jurassic World. It's like Universal's like set. Paramount is also because Paramount's had a lot of bombs. Like they had stuff like Downsizing that like they put a lot of money into, and that didn't do so well.
Oh, who'd have guessed? Who'd have guessed that movie would have bombed?
And then you got like a lot of their other movies that they had. Also, they don't have like they used to have Marvel, not anymore. They used to have DreamWorks, not anymore.
Yeah.
They have Sonic now.
Oh God, kill me, please. So essentially, what we're saying is that Paramount is going to be the next company that. No, wait, I thought it went to Sony. Oh.
Remember, Sony was developing it first, but now Sony got rid of
gotcha.
it. Now Paramount has it.
Well, now I'm depressed. And I have to go.
Oh yeah,
And
Paramount
drown
also
my
did
sorrows.
Paramount also did Mother. So I think that's they gave that money to Darren Aronofsky to basically do whatever the fuck he wanted. So you got to give him something like that. But they also did Ghost in the Shell and Baywatch, so you got to take some points away. Don't forget about Monster Trucks.
Oh God, I love that post about what the original design was. Like all the
That,
kids
that's scarier than the Cloverfield monster.
But I love that post, which is like kids were like screaming and running out of the test screening because they were so scared of the fucking stupid monster.
You saw what it looked like. It's scary.
It's fucked up. It is. It's like who thought that was appropriate for a children's movie? It's great. I want to meet that person and shake their hand because they're fucking insane.
But at least we can all know that the next Cloverfield movie after Overlord is going to be the Your Name remake. because Bad Robot's doing it, and that's another movie about space and time being ripped apart.
Oh my God! It's gonna end with a fucking Cloverfield monster destroying. It's instead of the fucking meteor, it's the Cloverfield monster destroys that town.
I want that to happen because so many people will be pissed off, and I will just laugh. I will laugh all the way
Oh
to
my
somewhere.
God! I have no interest in seeing that remake because I'm sure it would be terrible, but I would watch it. You know what? I think like everything I said about not caring about this franchise. You put the fucking Cloverfield monster in your name, and I will see it 10 times. On that note, I think we'll call it a day. Again, I think ultimately both of us did enjoy Cloverfield Paradox, but you know what? As much as I'm gonna take back what I said at the beginning. Just thinking about it more, I probably would agree with you and rank this below the first one because at least the first one knows what it is. Like I don't love the execution, but it doesn't. There's no, with the exception of the last shot, there is no like forced meddling after the fact to like try and make the first movie something it's not.
There is
So I would probably
something
rank this. Yeah.
something I was thinking about like after watching the movie and thinking about it. Like I kind of wanted to like write an article or do a video that was like a very clickbaity, the genius behind the Cloverfield particle. Because I have no idea if I doubt this wasn't completely intentional, but I kind of find it interesting that the movie titled The Cloverfield Paradox is itself a Cloverfield paradox. It is
Yeah.
a movie about characters using a particle accelerator beam to rip open the fabric of space and time, which results in them literally being eaten alive because they're somewhere where they're not supposed to be. And we have a movie that's two different movies essentially fused together, like a Cloverfield movie eating apart the God Particle movie until it's basically nothing, and then the monster shows up. Like, you essentially have this movie that is kind of fundamentally broken, but it's broken in such a way that it almost feels kind of perfect. Like,
I wouldn't go that far.
not perfect in the sense that the execution was perfect, but in the fact that like this movie about characters breaking stuff and suffering for it is literally a movie where things are being broken to fit a narrative that they are trying to craft. Like they are shoving in all the Cloverfield references and putting them in when you're like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like that's supposed to be there or that wasn't originally there. And when you have like it all together and when you think about it, I just kind of feel like it not intentional, but oddly it has a weird charm to it. And that's why I say the movie's interesting. Like I wouldn't say the movie's great or bad or like how good it really is, but it's like it's something worth looking over and examining, like doing some kind of autopsy on, to be like, what does this mean? Why is this? Why was this put exactly this way? And does it say anything about this universe that they've essentially created by unleashing the monsters?
This movie would be a great candidate to dissect, to kind of see how not to try and force I mean, this is kind of this on some level, this kind of has the same issues where the DC movies do, where they try and shoehorn in shit to try and make it like a expanded universe where it's not needed.
But at least with the DC movies, it's like you can obviously tell those were meant to be put in there. They just don't work in like story structure. With this, it's clear like it's a movie they made first, and then in reshoots they turned it into like a Cloverfield movie. So it's like, just like how the ship is being eaten apart by being fused with the other ship, you have these two movies eating at each other when they're not supposed to be there.
You have J.J. Abrams trying to eat apart God Particle while placating Paramount by making this movie appeal to the highest, the highest amount of people by shoehorning in monsters where they don't belong. Sunrise, sunset. And also,
you kind of feel like because they put it on Netflix, you feel like they probably could have pushed it. Like, in retrospect, it's like, if this was always going to be on Netflix, it could have been R, because like the PG-13 rating kind of doesn't make everything hurt as much as it could have.
Like, well, technically, because it's on Netflix, it's not rated PG-13. It's just rated like TVMA.
Yeah, but it's like, if it was on Netflix, then they could get away with like going full out, like what a movie theater R would be. And it's like, if they were going to do that, then it probably would have felt more, I don't know, would you call it like satisfying maybe? But it's like, overall, it wasn't a huge bother, but it's like something.
I don't think so. I think I would have preferred a more coherent script over than just like more able to have more violence and bad language. I would have preferred better written characters. But yeah, thank you all for joining us. I'm sure Stefan and I will return once Cloverfield 4 is revealed, and maybe that movie will what the fuck am I trying to say? Maybe that fourth movie will prove the paradox of whether a Cloverfield movie written from scratch will work better than one that is just cobbled together with shitty reshoots and a shoehorned in monster.
Give us Cloverfield monsters in World War II. Give us Nazi clovers.
Give us oh my god, give us the Cloverfield monster with Hitler's mustache. Please, I'll see it 10 times.